Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show hosted by a French professor who swears this is not a rap channel or a hip-hop channel. That's not the only thing I talk about. Next week, I got Tay-Tay and Carly Rae Jepsen coming up. We're going to be going away for hip-hop for a little while. But it is true, the majority of the videos I talk about are about hip-hop music and rap. And it makes sense. It's the most vibrant, interesting art that is out there on planet Earth, as it has been for the last 50 years. Well, most of the last 50 years, maybe only in competition with video games. As far as important and influential arts. So, it makes sense. And especially with this channel where I'm very interested in the ways that hip-hop has changed and evolved since I stopped paying attention around 2002. And the thing is this, my last couple reviews have been on my last couple of hip-hop reviews. Sort of two different poles. On the one hand, I reviewed Lil Baby as a representative of the mainstream, and then on the other hand I had Billy Woods as a sort of representative of the alternative to that mainstream. And the differences are pretty stark, in terms of their approach, in terms of their age. I don't know how old Billy Woods is, but he's been making albums since 2002. So I'm going to place him probably in his 40s, like me, and Lil Baby is in his early 20s. So why am I talking about all this? Because alternative hip-hop is not necessarily a young man's game. Now, mainstream rap is, in general, there's a sort of short lifespan. I mean, apparently, according to some people, DaBaby has aged out of his own music at like the age of 25 or however old he is. But alternative hip-hop is a lot more forgiving. I mean, when we think about like the great pillars of underground hip-hop right now, most of them are in their 40s. Even my son was shocked to find out that Griselda is all in their late 30s, early 40s. And it makes sense to develop this kind of perspective, to develop a voice, to develop something which would appeal to an alternative hip-hop audience requires more than just sort of being young and dumb and energetic, which is what a lot of mainstream hip-hop is and has been. Sidebar, that's the majority of what rock and roll is and has been as well, just being young and dumb and full of beans, right? Which all leads in, 2 minutes and 32 seconds, into me talking about who I'm going to be talking about, Mavi, and his album, Laughing So Hard It Hurts. I got a lot of people requesting this, which is very useful, by the way. I don't respond to all requests. If you send them to my Instagram, it's a little bit hard because I get so many requests. Humble brag. But I do appreciate it, especially when there's reasons given why I might like something. And so when I looked into Mavi and I discovered who he was, and I will be talking about his biography a little bit, but it really seems like this might be one of these outliers. Somebody who figured out how to break into the alternative hip-hop space at a young age without all that life experience that's needed in general most often to be a good underground, alternative, and even conscious rapper. Because when you listen to Mavi, he doesn't sound like somebody who is trying to position himself against the mainstream. His flow, he comes from the South, he comes from Charlotte, his flow can be mumbly, his flow can be quick, his flow changes up all the time, but it doesn't sound like somebody who's just put on a backpack and is out there to tell the rest of the hip-hop world that they're all garbage. Yeah, I understand that he had his breakout with Earl Sweatshirt, but I also think he would fit on a Drake album, and that's not an insult. The person he probably reminds me most of sort of spiritually is kind of like Shelley, the artist formerly known as Dram, just in his sort of ability to sort of seem to rise above the genre that he's in with just an amazing amount of charisma. The thing about this album, and as we will learn, this is all quite intentional, is that I'm not going to call it sleepy, because it's not sleepy. There's a lot of Southern rap that is sleepy, intentionally sleepy. Hell, that Lil Baby album was largely sleepy. When I listened to this with my son, he's a teenager, he was like, oh, I like this. I think it's lo-fi. And I sort of hear that. It is kind of lo-fi. If I had sort of one wish, it's maybe a devil's bargain. Because the thing about the production on this album is, and I read this in an interview, that he basically recorded all the things a cappella and then found producers. And it seems like he's really trying to find laid-back producers. But I think I think Mavi has crossover megastar potential. I think he does. Even though his rhymes are ridiculously smart, which seems to be against the modern mainstream, even though he doesn't rap about things that are the most popular things to rap about, doesn't rap about being rich, doesn't rap about doing drugs with some exception, doesn't rap about money, doesn't rap about women in derogatory ways or much at all, I still think that like if he got like an A&R, which feel free to throw a down thumb on this. I only learned what an A&R was because of that line from Jizza. Mountain climber who plays the electric guitar. If Mavi could find a rock climber who can play the electric guitar, he might be able to actually break through because of this ability that he has to be so young and so smart and have such a accessible, modern sounding flow while having the content of his lyrics be so poetic and abstract and at times inscrutable. I feel like this album could have had a banger. I don't like that term, but I use it because that's the modern parlance. It could have had a banger. It could have had, and the production's good, by the way. There's not a badly produced song on this album, but there isn't a song where you go, hey, listen to this. Listen to this right here. You're going to hear the potential of Mavi. But I say it's a devil's bargain because I don't know if I want him to do that. The more that I learned about this artist, the more it became clear to me this is what he wanted to make. This isn't a failure at a crossover album. This is a conscious decision to make an album that sounds like this. It's an album which, by the way, passes what I call the kitchen test, which is I play it in my kitchen on our little Bluetooth speaker. Yesterday, my wife made a bean and kale soup, which was good. It sounds like garbage, but it tasted great. And we listened to this album all the way through. It has that kind of modern vibe feel. And the more that I studied his interviews, because there's no biography of him, he's 23, just turned 23 a couple weeks ago. There's no like biography, but you can piece things together through different interviews, which is what I did. So what I want to do now, and I don't usually do this, but I'm going to share with you some things I learned in reading interviews with Mavi, who apparently, he seems like a great interview. You'll see. We'll see if I make it with a sweater on too. It's a little hot. So the first interview I read was on Pitchfork. I know, everyone hates Pitchfork. I don't hate Pitchfork. Where it was, where it explains that he's from Charlotte, which is interesting. I've been to Charlotte a couple times. I don't associate it as a place capable of making great art, but I don't know. The baby's from there. This guy's from here. Maybe I just went to the wrong part. The best thing I did in Charlotte was I took a bunch of 17th century French scholars to the NASCAR museum. You want to see some confused people. Why look at this? Apparently, I don't know if he dropped out with his success in music. I don't know how you are a music star and a college student at the same time, but he goes to Howard, a historically black college or university, and apparently he studies neuroscience, which puts him in my good graces because the Dr. and Mrs., my wife, is a neuroscientist, which is why I bought this book, Neuroscience for Dummies, which, by the way, if you're buying a book called Neuroscience for Dummies, probably not a dummy. I also liked that in his interview with Pitchfork, he gave a shout out to Bell Hooks. Viewers of this channel will know I almost always review Makami, and he released a new album, and he kind of dissed Bell Hooks on the album. And I'm going to get to it eventually, but I'm a little pissed. Come on. Don't take swipes at Bell Hooks. I'm so happy that Bell Hooks is getting this much attention and love right now in popular culture. R.I.P. It's amazing. Maybe it's a good sign that she's having swipes being taken at her. And then I read a much more interesting interview from OK Player. And this is where it explained a few things. One is that he's been touring with Jack Harlow. Oh, my auditors. Your professor was so close to making a really bad race-based pun. You see, the word Jack and the word black rhyme, okay? And Mavi is black, and you might not know this, Jack Harlow is not. So I came real close to making some kind of black Harlow joke. It doesn't work. They don't sound the same. But I don't think they're in totally different lanes. Like, the coolness, what a lot of people mistake as lack of effort in Jack Harlow, and I do appreciate Jack Harlow's music. I did a review of his last album, like Jack Harlow is sort of like if Mavi had gotten that A&R I was talking about, like someone who really knows how to package together his music and make it there. So I mean, I prefer Mavi much, much, much more. Their styles aren't that similar, except there's a similar kind of Generation Z vibeness going on here, a certain amount of calmness. And a certain amount of calmness that does not come from the ingestion of codeine. Okay? So like ingesting cough syrup makes you a certain kind of calm. And there's a lot of that in hip hop. And there's been a lot of that for 20 years. But these new kids, they're making these laid back vibes without that kind of, I presume, without that kind of assistance. And this is part of my general thoughts about anybody under the age of 25, which is, their whole life they've just been bombarded by information. If you grow up with an iPhone, what happens to your brain? We're finding out. But I think that you need things to be more gentle, which is the word that Mavi used when describing this album. I made this gentle album to be gentle with myself. Thank you, all those people who said I should review this album. A gentle hip-hop album. He made it to be gentle with himself. It's sort of an act of self-love. And when you understand that and you listen to this album, you get it. Like, it's a self-soothing rap album. So go ahead and tell me in the comments, how many gentle rap albums are there? Not sleepy, not lo-fi, not just drumless. Tell me, I'm sure they exist. My ignorance is profound. That's what it says on my mug. If you buy my mug, it says right down there, ignorance is profound. There's a lot I don't know. But I can't think of a gentle rap album through to through. And it really comes through in this album. And it makes it enjoyable and interesting. Like, what a fascinating position to take for a 23-year-old rapper from the South, right? If I told you a 23-year-old rapper with, like, the dyed hair, and I think he has like one gold tooth, at least in some pictures, and he's coming out here, and his whole thing is going to be gentle. Also, apparently, according to this interview, he quit smoking weed, which is the only drug references on the album, or some references to smoking weed, but there appears to be some conflict in that, which I appreciate. I appreciate that he appears to be addressing the fact that it might be self-medication and might not be healthy for him. It's an interesting thing when you are, and he just appears to be a well-educated, well-adjusted guy. When you're that way, what do you rap about? You have so many words to rap about. That's one of my theories about like why Jack Harlow has all the weird stuff about sleeping with so many women. Like, he just needs something to rap about. That's why I think former crack dealers never stop rapping about crack, because it's something to rap about. I mean, what does Pusha T do when he wakes up in the morning? He doesn't go out and hit the block, but what's he gonna rap about? Like, it'd be interesting if he rapped about, trying to work with Ye for the past 20 years, but he doesn't. But there are just some of these pearls that come out of this interview that help me to better understand his music. So I'm going to share them with you right now. This is a quote from Mavi, at the time a 22-year-old kid. People with more complicated social perceptions still have really simple problems. Now, that's a very complicated way of saying what People magazine tells us. Stars, they're just like us. But still, he's talking about simple problems. And he talks about the importance of love on this album. I don't have a life outside of the love that's been extended to me. I am an average black child who has been loved sufficiently. I think love found me more than I found it. I just had to grow to understand it. Again, feel free to tell me in the comments, what rap albums do you know of that are primarily concerned with gentleness and a meditation on the nature of love? Not lust, not love of a specific woman, but just sort of receiving love in general. I mean, I'm thinking maybe De La Soul's first album, but I don't know. You tell me, okay? And then the final interview I read was on some site called Passion Vice, where they talked about how he recorded it and brought it to producers. So let me get the song of the album. Remember how I said there's no bangers? Okay, there's kind of a banger. There's kind of a banger, but it's not a first-time banger. It's a third-time banger. Third time you hear the song, get stuck in your head. It's called Baking Soda. You can click above the banana, above the banana, above the bananas, above the neuroscience book up there. And it's produced by someone named Monty Booker. And this beat is so stuck in my head. This beat is very typical of the entire album. Like the guitar peels off and the drums are in the back. And it feels like the whole thing is falling apart. And there's these like video game sounds. And he starts off in this sing-songy voice, but it's not super clear. The whole thing's like just like this shaky voice, and it's just beautiful. Like his voice is just so charismatic and so interesting. No auto-tune, just his voice. And there's actual chorus in here, which the only real difference is that it's more emphatic and repetitive than the rest, but it's a very subtle difference. The way I describe this beat is the way that you nod your head. Now, this is a standard head nod, right? And that's good. And that's good. And a lot of good Jeep beats will give you that kind of music. This, though, this has got the head moving slowly backwards and forwards, and then back and forth. Listen to the song, and just do it, okay? Just take a break from this video and listen to the song. And his voice, it's got that. As Eazy-E said, front to back and side to side. That's what this does. At times, there's like a weird little harmonica sound in here. And then we get to these lyrics. Baking soda. Viewers of this channel will know I have not only have I not reviewed the last Makami, I have not reviewed the last Freddie Gibbs. I just got a little tired of thinking about crack, okay? I just did. It's no one's fault. It's just I did back-to-back crack albums, and I'm just tired of thinking about putting baking soda in water and it's almost dry and all that stuff. So when I saw there's a track on here called Baking Soda, I'm like, well, this guy's not selling crack at Howard. It's a very difficult school. You're not, but what is it though? And this is what I'm talking about. His lyrics are so interesting, are so exciting, because they're very poetic. Palette on the stove with the baking soda, I'm gonna add another stroke and then the painting sold. So it's actually a metaphor of crack as being art. Like the baking soda, the way he expresses it is a way of like stretching his thoughts out. Like you stretch out a brick of cocaine, because I basically am Freeway Professor Sky. It's my real nickname. Like you stretch it out. And so as opposed to it being, like the way maybe Griselda will do it, where they'll use crack as a metaphor for music, like a unit of music and selling, it's more like it's his artistry. And I don't think it's coming from a place of experience. I think this is intentionally using crack metaphors for someone who, I would presume, based on what I've read, has not only never sold crack, I would imagine probably never saw cocaine until he was on tour with Jack Harlow. I mean, just with other people. I don't know what Jack's up to besides selling sneakers and chicken and pissing off Sean C. Very funny. So, awesome. This I can get behind. This is the kind of crack rap I can get behind just because it's different. I love the other stuff too. Intimately in the business of stretching out lessons. Look at the way he phrases these terms. Intimately in the business of stretching out lessons, crammed in the business of pressure invested. From my early days, verbal with a vestige, never quite know if they heard what I said. So stretching out lessons is like stretching out a brick, but at the same time he's confused if his words are getting through to people. And then he's a conscious rapper. He is. But not in the way you're thinking. He's never on the nose. Was up on my bread, so I bet some more. I got stacked and snatched, rounded the checkerboard. I am a king, but got less in this metaphor. Nothing but my knowledge left to flex. So first of all, he stops rhyming with this word flex. And it's just not really clear what he's saying, but it seems like he's really going through something, really expressing his experience of coming up in the rap game while at the same time thriving in a society that is not interested in him thriving. Love my brothers, wish I could tell them more. They're going to feel it when they get to the step I'm on. When the mirror way under the pedestal and you traded your face for development, now your tears is now trees. Do you see what I'm saying about this poetry? He's on a step and he loves his brothers and they're hopefully going to get there, but then there's a mirror under the pedestal? A mirror under the pedestal? What does that mean? Why? I don't get it. I don't have to get it because I get it. You know what I'm saying? If you watch this channel enough, I love my favorite lyrics are the lyrics that I don't get, but I get. And And then he does a thing where he just slows down the whole beat at the end and plays the chorus again. Just this very sort of catchy, cool chorus. He talks about like gold chains, my N-words, clever. It's not really clear. It seems like he's just talking about the way that his people have managed to thrive in a society that does not want to see them thrive. But the slowdown really helps you appreciate the rest of this great beat. So there's my example. Did you hit the smash bucket? Did you smash the like bucket? Because you gotta, okay? I'm 20 minutes into this video of a rapper you might not have heard of. Maybe. And I'm trying to tell you, this guy could be the future of underground rap. And you heard it from me. Probably third or fourth. It's okay. My last video did so well where I talked about not talking about Kanye. I mean, yay. Next song is called Hi John. Gentle beat guitars, kind of a whispering flow. This beautiful lyric, I'm praying they still make love in my sighs. Sort of a Kirk Van Houten lyric, but very nice. He has this amazing voice control. I guess, it's probably easiest to compare to Andre 3000. Andre 3000. But just like the way, we made a turn on the long route for plunder, casted in small rooms, knitted heart looms, spinning something tragic, but love for the fragments automatic, just that Sumter magic, bump my cap to crack from the puff of raw, pump a baddie, always keep a driver by the caddy, we lugging baggage, want my status to attack me, so they just hustling backwards, like playing around with all these words, interior rich rhymes here, and then the whole thing is called Hi John, which if you're not familiar with African-American folklore is this really important, interesting, and mythical character who's never really been pinned down, okay? Like, it's not like Paul Bunyan, like blue ox, trees, whatever. Like, Hi John is a very interesting figure. I'm not an expert on it. I just did some research before this. According to that interview, he's very influenced by Zora Neale Hurston's writing on Hi John. Sort of a trickster sort of figure who was often seen as like a king in Africa who became a slave here. The kind of person who like plays tricks on the overseers and sort of plays tricks on racist people, while at the same time sort of like floats away and has this sort of ineffable spirit. And there's like some kind of herb that's named after him that's supposed to give you magical powers. It's interesting. And again, I'm a college professor, so I know what a good student looks like. And I can tell you, now, he may not be a good student because he's off touring with Jack Harlow instead of coming to class. I can't give you an A. But the ability to read Zora Neale Hurston and make this kind of creative writing out of it and around these themes, this dude's a valedictorian. This isn't college dropout music, nor is it like, I'm so collegey college, can you collegey me? Not at all. It's just somebody who did what you're supposed to do when you get an education, which is like not just get a diploma so that you can make $10,000 more a year than you would have if you were changing oil at Jiffy Lube, but so you actually get a better brain that's more capable of complex thought and making connections between things and having an understanding of the things that we take for granted are often the result of many different forces which are unseen and invisible, but that you can study in college. College is great. College is awesome. And it really seems like this guy understands that, because this song is a great example of what you can do when you're creative and you learn something new and you use that to create art. I really like this guy. At the very end, he has this great mysterious lyric. You'll need an echo just to hear from me, but I'm an echo in your memory. I think that's what this is. I think this is the echo of Hi John, which is great, because when I first read it, I was like, oh, is he high? Is this a weed song? Then we hear like a pitched up voice in the back, maybe Japanese. Next song is called Spoiled Brat, also produced by Wolf Morpheus, who produced the last one. More low sounds. He talks about having an asthma attack, and I think that might be why he has such a good flow. I have asthma. I grew up with asthma. I had terrible asthma attacks. My parents didn't know that you could take a kid to the hospital if he had a bad asthma attack. So on multiple occasions when I was in my teens, I literally prepared for death. I sat there and just said, prayed to God, thanked for all the time that I had, and expected not to wake up in the morning. So I think a lot about breath. I think a lot about breathing. And ironically, yes, I did actually smoke cigarettes for a while. And this dude, the fact that he smokes weed and he's been trying to quit, that makes sense as well too. Because smoking, like, you think so much about your breath that, like, you sort of want to punish it by smoking. It's a weird psychological thing. But I only did that when I was, his age, for a long time. But it's interesting, and I think it actually does play into his artistry. Because if you really listen carefully, how much he plays with his breath and he plays with his flow. Next song's called Baking Soda, which I already covered. Then we get to Doves. This is the most vibey of vibe songs. Very, I don't know, kind of reminds me of an Outkast beat, but just very sleepy, kind of a blurred out saxophone in the back. I don't know what he's talking about on this song, but I don't think it matters. This is just that gentleness. Next song is called Quiet on the Set. Nice, very present hi-hat that is not a trap hi-hat. Cool kind of guitars here. He talks about his teenage me. He's talking about his teenage self. Very self-reflective. And this is where he uses his breath control to to really build up emotion. Because if I just start to talk with one voice and, I'm not going to take in another breath until I keep talking, you start listening, you start thinking, when am I actually going to take another breath? And you hear me talking, you wonder how long can it possibly last? And I'm going to get a little more excited, and I got to get a little more excited because that's the only way I'm going to get those last little bits of air out, and I got to keep going, I got to keep talking. Teenage me hated, all I want to do is a friend zone, acquaintances, bang and hate and shit. I lost. Next song is called Three Left Feet, produced by Jacob Rochester. I wonder if he's from Rochester. Where I am. Maybe Minnesota, not New York. A great tinkling beat. Basically, the beat's falling apart, which I love. I love drum beats that feel like they're falling apart. Feels like the drummer is just like his arms and legs are falling off. This is like a great broken love song. And this is why. If I haven't convinced you to listen to Mavi yet, let's face it, 26 minutes in, you've listened. Thank you. And thank you for watching, by the way. People who watch my videos of lesser-known artists are my favorite viewers. I don't tell you that until you get deep into one of these Thunderground Thursday videos. But you are personally my favorite kind of viewer. Because you're not just here for what you like. You're here to learn. Listen to the way he puts together this line. Wish it didn't have to end like this. Met you at your wasted cliff. Told you my grip was slipping. You looked up like, is it really? Why you want your fist for clenching, couldn't answer. Stepped on your toes when I first pulled you close. The willing dancer, 3 left feet. Gorgeously poetic. The way he says, told you my grip was slipping. You looked up like, is it really? Like rhyming slipping and is it really? And like the finch, like you feel it. You feel like you're watching Cliffhanger or something. You're at the cliff and they're holding on. The hands are slippy. Like, is it really? And it's this whole thing about this like failed love relationship and his clumsiness and his inability, having 3 left feet, his inability to stay with this person. And it's a sort of meaningful, thoughtful love song where I don't exactly know what he's talking about, but I sort of understand where he's coming from, like feeling like he wasn't totally ready in this relationship, or feeling like he was never quite in sync, and feeling like this person doesn't really believe him when he's saying his grip is slipping, and she says, is it really? Once again, the beat slows down at the end so you can take time to appreciate it. My Good Ghost, produced by Coffee Black, is insanity. It is insanity. We got a sample from Ray Parker Jr., the guy who did the Ghostbusters song, except it's a different song, and then some other sample, and it's driving me up the wall. Because I know it's been in some other rap song, and like, where have I heard it? Where have I heard this song? Is it Kendrick? Is it Ye? I swear to God, I've heard this sample. Can you please tell me? Just that part. Because he's got like 3 different voices going on here, 3 different samples all over itself. And all at the same time, too, he's delivering his rhymes with such emphasis, just all over the place. Next song is called Reason, produced by Overcast. This appears to be partly about like his trouble with labels and trying to figure out how to get signed or how not to. Be uncommunist-ish, so these act stuck when I ask for a cut. Took home nothing but 10 bands off my first 100. Getting leglessly drunken, learning legalese just so I can see the games that this come with. Know when they press my buttons. took a month and labels trying to F me over a petty 50. So he seems to be talking about feeling like he's targeted to be exploited. And then at the end, he has just this great mumbling. We really just fiending for a reason. Again, it's his ability to sort of play with mumbly rap while also having like this great perspicacity. One might even call him precocious. You know, precocious is when people act older than their age. I would say he's precocious. You know, like young people who are this smart are just inherently precocious because you should really have more life experience to be this smart. Like if you listen to like Bob Dylan's first couple albums when he was like 19, he's like, shut up. Not like a full song. He has a couple songs on this album that are like super full. Next song, same one, Hemlock. I really like though the sort of spoken outro where again, like there's political aspects to it, there's racial aspects to it, there's societal aspects to it, but it's really not hitting you over the head. Can't take your seat at the table because the stool's up too high. I see when n's get famous, the revolution in them die. They gnaw my flesh, mispronounce my name, deny my breath, snap my bones in two. So, you know, it's this sort of like half song that doesn't really develop too much, but really with this theme of like what is happening to him since his initial success. Next song is called Having My Way by Da Vinci. And Leonardo da Vinci? That's some Vine, wasn't it? My kids showed me some Vine. Some guy goes, Da Vinci. Tell me about that in the comments too. This is actually the closest thing to like a real proper upbeat banger. More great verse. Another great verse, the great breath. Next song is called Known Unknowns, which turns out, a Billy Woods album. So maybe it's a reference to that. This feels more like a very quick, again, not quite a full song, but sort of a love song to like a woman who he's into. Always knew I wanted to F you in school. Just ain't know how or when, but now I do. And then we get this like weird line in the middle. Again, his lyrics are very dense. You do have to read them. I would suggest reading them as opposed to just listening to them because they can get lost with his flow. I don't know that my heart got a soul left to reach. Pile of bones by the soles of my feet. That's the way he's describing his body. A pile of bones by the soles of my feet. Pretty cool. And then it sort of ends with this punchline. I was just mean to you because I thought you was cute. It seems to be sort of like a love song that has a somewhat happy ending. Or sort of mutual flirtation. Next song is called Trip, again by Monty Booker, featuring Amindi. Nice kind of singing, the only guest appearance on here. I do want to credit this album for not having a lot of guest appearances. Again, when he does get that A&R who mountain climbs and plays an electric guitar, I'm sure they'll throw on more rappers to rap with him, which I would like. Like, I wouldn't mind like a Billy Woods feature on here, you know, or an Earl Sweatshirt feature. Like I think if I were the A&R for Earl Sweatshirt and Billy Woods and whatever, all the underground guys, Aesop, whoever, ASAP, whoever, I would get them. I would hitch your wagon to this guy. This guy, again, maybe that feeling of sort of the underground Jack Harlow kind of thing. Like he has it. And he's young and talented and he has a good head on his shoulders. So like, but now maybe I'm just encouraging people to be leeches off him. God damn, I don't know. I don't know if I want this guy to just keep doing his thing and just keep up his blinders, you know, and just not let anyone in. Or if I want him to become a more typical rap star and I don't know. You tell me in the comments if you're a Mavi fan. I hope that's how I pronounce his name. Could be Mavi. Call me Mavi. It's too late. You've watched too long. Stop watching now. You're going to get stuck with that joke. Kind of a happy song next. Opportunity Kids. Great beat up sounds. I like that like he really flexes, but he does it by saying, I do too much to these self-image to get their sympathy. Bruise too many hubris, gooey grins when I slip. So like he's not just saying I'm the best, but he's like I'm so good that other people's self-image makes them not have sympathy for me when I mess up. You see how he's on that next level? You see how he's not just like I'm the best from north, south, and east and west. It's like I hurt these people's self-image so that when I have a problem, they smile as opposed to have sympathy for me. Next song is Inconvenient Truth, again by Jacob Rochester, with these chopped up weird sounds like an 80s cartoon. The drums barely start again. I love this guy's choppy beats. I don't know who he is. And here I'm going to spend a little bit of time with his very, very good rhyme writing. So I'm going to point out this double rhyming scheme where he rhymes with ice and sled. Okay, so when he rhymes with ice, I'll do that. And when he rhymes with sled, I'll put that up there. Okay, the sled kind of verges into X, into Ellet, but in general we have these double rhymes. So the first one, the second one. Okay? I'm changing patterns now. All this happened, never knew. It's like as long as the revenue, it's enough ice for a sled until the money mildewy like white people's dreads might be possessed if it might be a hex. I'm firing up the private collection nightly to quell it, dog. I might be the pheromones, bro. They might be can smell it. Might need repellent. Unlicensed, and it might be unregistered, and you might need to catch him. It's nightly, it's regular. Life is off schedule. Granny posed right here at me, but I got her blessing still. Now my daughter's coming home from school, which is quite exciting. Hey dear, I'm actually recording my video. Could you just walk the dogs? I'll be done by the time you're back. Okay. I have like 2 songs left. Whew. So we got Chinese Finger Trap, the next song here. A beautiful verse all about kind of like fame. A very simple beat, kind of pulsing sub bass. He's talking about the difficulty he has. The harder I work, the smaller escape, the taller the gate. They say it's a game, I should be honored to race. Constantly going on about like the difficulty of fame and the sort of belief that maybe it's not as great as it's all cracked up to be. Finally sober, and it's just another layer of lonely. This dude has all these great lines. And that's my biggest problem with Lil Baby, is that even though I liked his flow and I actually liked that album, I understand a lot of people didn't. I thought it was fine. Good even. There weren't a lot of quotables. This album's got a lot of quotables, but they don't quite jump out. You have to really read them. Finally sober, it's just another layer of lonely. Wow. Final track is called Last Laugh, produced by Delvinky. Kind of a gorgeous stereo beat with like these very complex drums, very tasteful guitar. Laugh so hard it hurts, which is this whole theme of the album. And then, God be joining on me. I'd be jonesing for another spliff. You give another day of life and all the bullish that come with it. Laughing so hard it hurts. Think he's a comedian. I'm doubled over in tears. They point and howl beat on me. On tour, wowed by the scenery and what it means to be a second-class citizen. See why they wrote a green book. Political. Learned why they could put 100 cash and even a mean hook to fight to death over what we got left. Still they don't see you. Invisible Man. Quoting the Ralph Ellison book title. So he kind of goes through all these things, and it's about his life. And it seems to be in the interview he talks about that it's going back to the High John theme at the beginning, this idea of laughing so hard that you cry, about the highs and lows, and about the ways to sort of get around all the different ways that people will take advantage of you and hurt you. That's it. That's my review. Hey, what's the Da Vinci meme?
Da Vinci?
It was like a Vine or something?
It was a TikTok. These 2 dudes were like, who painted the Mona Lisa? And they didn't know.
Okay.
Da Vinci?
And they read it Da Vinci. Okay. I don't think that's why Da Vinci is called Da Vinci. But anyways, these are my Patreons. They give me money to buy music. So I hope Mavi tours, because I want to take these guys' money to see him play live, because I bet he's pretty impressive with his breath control and just his general presence. It seems quite good. So thank you to all these people. I'm going to go make some chocolate milk for my daughter. There's the camera.